The other day I had a lunch, and it consisted of a lot of little benches of,
Benches? It consisted of benches? Benches.
No, little. Let's start that over.
Okay, let's start that over. I had lunch. You had lunch. We all had lunch.
We all had lunch. Yay! We all have lunch, and we all scream for that. And the other day I had lunch, and there were little bunches of little cheeses that I had. And so you might say that I had lunchies.
Lunchies? Lunchies. Oh, sweet cheeses. This is Barely Furcasting, featuring Tabin and Injured Nerves audio production. Moobarkfluff to all our listeners and viewers in the Potiverse. I am Barely Normal, your co-host eating pot roast. And with me is, as always, Tabin. Moobarkfluff, Tabin, how are you doing?
Moobarkfluff, barely to you too. Yes, I am doing good. I'm doing fine. It's a nice day outside. How's your week been?
It's been busy with work and podcast and work and podcast.
No time for anything else. That's about it.
Pretty much what I do. Work, podcast, sleep, work, podcast,
repeat.
Sleep, word, podcast. Wash, rinse, repeat, yes.
Yes.
Although I did unload a pickup truck full of wood this morning, so.
Was that fun? I mean, did you mean to do that, or did it just strike
you? No, it just fell on me.
Oh, I'm just going to...
Just, yeah.
Okay.
I saw a pickup truck loaded full of wood out front, and I thought, I'm going to take that out of there.
Let's take that.
I know it's not mine, but I'm going to take it anyway, so.
Why not?
No, we had some crap wood from a friend. So he cuts down trees. Well, he's not a lumberjack, but he cuts down trees. He eats his lunch. He goes to the lavatory.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day.
You don't know what that is, but I'm going to drop a song at that point. So, but when he splits all the wood, you have no clue what I'm talking about. But
I have no idea.
When he splits all the wood, what happens is he winds up with knurled pieces, and so where the branches come out, and he calls that crap wood, and he doesn't put that in his wood that he sells.
I see, and so he inherited
he has a bunch of that, and he's like, here, you can have this. But it's great for like our little outdoor fireplace and going camping and whatnot. So.
And he definitely can't be a lumberjack because he don't care. Or no, because he does care. I'm a lumberjack and I don't care. Isn't that a song?
Yes, that's the song I'm going to drop in.
Oh, so I did know what you were talking about.
And it's I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay.
It is. So why don't I just... Okay.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day. I cut down trees. I eat my lunch. I go to the lavatory. On Wednesdays, I go shopping and have buttered scones for tea.
I cut down trees, I eat my lunch, I go to the lavatory. On Wednesday, I go shopping and have buttered scones for tea.
He cuts down trees, he eats his lunch, he goes to the lavatory. On Wednesday, he goes shopping and has buttered scones for tea.
Buttered scones for tea. Okay, so I didn't.
So before we get started, although we've been started for a while now, so I was just wondering, you mentioned in the chat, in the BFFT chat, that your wiki fur was icky. It was an icky wiki fur.
It's an icky wiki.
Have you fixed your icky wiki?
I have not fixed my icky wiki. It's still icky wiki. I'm okay, lumberjack icky. I don't know.
So I want to give our furs a weekly challenge. I want you to take your pet for a walk, but act like they're walking you.
Ooh.
And if you do that, send a picture in the BFFT chat. Or let us know if you don't even like this anymore, then we will stop doing it. But we never hear either way.
We don't hear either way, so
we never hear anything anyway, yeah. So that's actually going to take us right up to last week today already.
Okay, I forgot to say,
what?
Actually.
Yes, what did you
Two
forget
things
now?
I was going to say. This is because you were going to ask me about what I'm doing for summer, and we didn't do that. That's why I didn't say this. Anyway, so what am I doing for summer? Nothing. But
nothing. I'm doing nothing. Okay, well.
I'm doing nothing. I had to make sure I said that. No, but I was talking to a Wolfie friend of mine the other day happened to be talking about summer. What are you going to do this summer and stuff? And he said, well, I'm probably just going to be working at home for my little Wolfie den. But he loves this Wolfie den. And I'm thinking, if instead of a Wolfie, you were a Swede, you'd be working in Sweden all weekend. And then I had a question for you, not about Sweden.
Oh, what is that?
So recently, like the past few days in the chat, you've been doing all this word association thing.
Yeah, my brain does that sometimes.
I see. You just... Okay. I was wondering if there was a story behind it, because it seemed all of a sudden, but apparently you just do that, and you usually don't put it in the chat, but you did it this time. Okay.
I did. Yeah, I put it in the chat. So, I'm trying to make the chat, I don't know, less ferrety.
It's been very ferrety
It's been
recently.
very ferrety lately, so I'm trying to make it less ferrety. No offense to any ferrets or weasels or...
But we don't want to leave any fur out, so if it's too much ferret, well...
If it's too much ferret, then, it's kind of like, it's kind of like, can you have too much ferret?
Probably
Sometimes
not.
you can.
Oh, sometimes you
Well,
can. Okay.
Can you have too much Taven?
I think any moment of the day that Taven is around, that's probably a little too much. So I think that's an outlier question there.
So last week we chatted a little bit about taxonomy.
Ah, yeah. It's very
And
taxing on us.
It was very taxing, and it is tax season. So, and in fact,
that's true.
Yes, and in fact, when this comes out, it'll be one more day until tax deadline. Dun, dun,
Oh,
dun.
so all you for dun dun dun. And you know what that is, Barely?
What is it?
Well, you know.
We're not off the rails yet.
Oh, we're
And
not.
if
Okay.
No, we're not there. We just dun dun dun. It's okay.
We just did the. Oh, we just dun dun dun. Okay, we're not there. Okay.
It was just a dun 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 moment.
I'm behind. I'm so behind. Oh.
You're so behind. That's like the guy. That's like the the optometrist that backed into his lens grinder. He got a little behind in his work. So anyway, taxonomy. I asked you, is there a taxonomy for non-living things? And we didn't know, but I looked it up, and there's not.
Oh, okay.
There used to be.
Oh,
In
really?
fact, the gentleman, and I'm going to call him a gentleman because I'm assuming he was a nobleman because it was the 1700s, who came up with the taxonomy for life. He had a taxonomy for minerals, but it didn't really catch on, and it kind of dropped off because people confuse taxonomy with organisms, and so taxonomy is only used for organisms. Other things are classifications, especially for like non-organic things. There are, I think it's 8 classifications, which is native elements, silicates, oxides, sulfides, sulfates, halides or halides, carbonates, phosphates, and mineraloids.
Mineraloids.
Mineraloids. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like sulfides and sulfates. You hear that, but I did not know that it's like among that category of
It's the
classification.
classifications of non-life stuff.
interesting.
Yes.
Nice.
And then you mentioned 4A batteries.
Oh yeah,
Which-
quadruple A batteries.
Quadruple A batteries. And it was funny because after you mentioned that, I was literally the very next day, I was in Fred Meyer in their photoelectronics department, and there was a whole rack of batteries, and guess what there was? 4As.
They had aren't they
Yep.
cute little things?
They're cute little batteries.
They really are.
Little batteries. Yeah. So we talked about durian fruit, which is it's icky. It's icky smelling. It's a South Asian or South
It's
Asian.
an Asian. Asian is this new place on the corner of
of
Venezuela.
happy and healthy. Yeah.
Yes.
On the corner of happy and healthy. But I tasted durian fruit when I was visiting Southeast Asia a couple of years
you did?
ago. Yeah.
I hear it's good. Was it any good?
It was okay. I mean, it's not something that I would, rush right out and buy because,
I've got to rush out and get some durian right now.
yeah, but it stinks when it's being
It
cooked.
does. That's why I haven't tried any, because it just...
Yeah. And in Vietnam, they actually cook it over a barbecue to
Barbecue.
like coals and stuff. Yeah, so that it comes out. So that makes the shell open up, and then they say it makes the stench go away, but it's bad enough just raw, but then you cook it, and now it's just like
It doesn't
cooked
sound like
durian.
it's going to help anything, no.
No, it doesn't help much at all. And then finally, for last week today, was you talked about Discord on My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. And you kept saying that it was voiced by LeVar Burton, when in fact
Did I
it
say
was,
that? Oh,
yes,
jeez.
when in fact it was John
It's
Delancey.
not.
Because I was trying to find a clip to play, and I found it, and I'm listening to it, going, that is not LeVar Burton. Wait a minute, that's John
No,
Delancey.
did I at least say Q right? Because I in my mind I was thinking Q.
You were thinking Q, but you kept saying LeVar Burton.
Did I even say Q? Was I just...
No, you just said
Oh.
LeVar Burton.
So I just
voiced
led
Discord.
every fur astray. But of course, every fur already knew what the truth was, and they just let me like, okay,
Well, and
now we know.
Now we know, and hopefully that will ebb the tide of angry bronies.
I'm hoping we've cleared that up. Any angry bronies out there, I'm sorry. I love Fluttershy, if that helps.
All right, I am going to post the link for 5 Minute Furs. So let's see what comes in. So while we're waiting on somebody to come in for 5 Minute Furs, I think Rain might pop in if nobody shows up. But anyway, it's you. I think you have another question for me.
I have a bunch of last week today's.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Okay. Well, why don't you sally forth and tell us all about them?
I'm going to Sally Forth. Wasn't that like a comic strip, Sally Forth? Or maybe it still is. I think there's a comic
It might
strip
have been a
called...
comic strip called Sally Forth, actually. Yes.
So if any of you furs know this, write us about it and tell us all about the comic strip that we think might exist or used to called Sally Forth. So the first thing I have for last week today is last week we were talking about you were talking about statistics for the pod and how San Jose is the #1 most listened to in city. That's a bad sentence structure, but you know what I meant. And then
I know exactly what you meant, yeah.
Is Ohio, was it Columbus, Ohio? Was someplace in Ohio was, and it was
Columbus,
so,
Ohio.
I told my honey about this, and so we were curious, like we were talking about on the show, like why Columbus? And the only thing we could come up with, so Columbus, Ohio is a big college town, so there's that. It's also 3 hours from Pittsburgh, which I didn't know for some reason, and Pittsburgh is where Anthrocon is. So there's kind of possibly a lot of furries there because of that. And Majira, who, I mean, he doesn't listen to this, so it doesn't matter.
Well, he doesn't like you, so.
He doesn't, it actually is true, he doesn't, so that's why he doesn't listen to this. But Majira was originally from Akron, Ohio, which is actually closer to Pittsburgh than Columbus. So I say that because, like, okay, Majira was there, so maybe that means a lot of other furs were there because of that, and then AC and so that's the only thing we could come up with. Why Columbus? Maybe there's just a big, huge furry population there.
Maybe.
Anyway, that's what we were doing. That's all I have to say about that. But more last week today. I've got more. And this actually has to do with episode 43. So I'm way behind, but if I finally finished episode 43.
Going back to episode 43.
We're way back to episode 43. This was the one with Twitch the Wolf. So some things came out about in furries in the news that I thought were notable for some reason. And one was like, you know the thing I do with the furries and the news thing?
We all do, yes.
I don't think you can miss it. One is, at least on that episode, what am I even doing? I mean, what is even going through my brain that... Okay, so any further listen, go back to episode 43 and explain to us what I'm even doing there. But so one of the furries in the news that you brought up was, this was when Dragoneer had just rebought Fur Affinity.
Okay.
And he had, kind of spent a lot of money on it. And so we were talking about, we'll see how it goes. Was this a wise decision to buy Fur Affinity back? Time will tell. And so my question to you is, do we happen to know it's still there. Do we know if it was a wise decision for Dragoneer or not?
Well, I would assume that it was a wise decision since it's still operational.
That's what I would assume.
I would assume that it was a wise decision. I don't know whether he's living in the poorhouse because of it.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
Is there?
Oh my fluff! Hold that fluff.
Do we know if there's actually a poorhouse somewhere?
Hello.
It's the Rain Raccoon.
It's me. Nobody wanted to come on tonight.
I know. I was watching the chat. You said 3, 2, 1. Here I am.
I have warned everybody repeatedly that this is going to happen if they don't start calling in.
But here it is. Well, you're right in time. We were just in the middle of me talking about last week today. And so you can hear me finish talking about my part of last week today. And then we can get on to you, which is the important thing.
Yeah. Okay, so go on, Tabin.
This is from episode 43.
And we were wondering whether Dragonair made a wise decision to buy back Fur Affinity. And since it's still operational, we're assuming it was a wise decision, but we should probably reach out to Dragonair and find out whether or not he's living in the poorhouse somewhere.
Poorhouse or not? Yep.
And then I was asking
Poorhouse.
if there was. I wonder if there was actually a poorhouse anymore anywhere. I know there used to be, and every state had one, but I don't know whether there is anymore.
I think at any restaurant that sells lots of drinks, because then it's a poorhouse.
Poorhouse. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And another big question was the furries in the news thing. Maybe Rain. So this is a good question. Rain, do you know that furries in the news thing that I do?
Yeah.
In episode 43, I was listening to it. What is even going through my brain? I don't know. So you now have an assignment to go back and listen and tell me what was going on there with me.
I'm not sure I'm qualified to do that, but I'll try.
So continuing on. Oh, maybe we'll get Moritz to figure it out for us.
Explain it. Yeah, Moritz can figure it out for us.
Oh, yeah, Moritz can figure a lot of things out.
Good.
He's a smart crow.
And one more episode, we mentioned Moritz. Hi, Moritz.
Hi, Moritz. How's it going?
This is becoming a running thing.
Pretty much, yes.
So another furry in the news thing I had from that same episode. Barely, you had mentioned the YouTube Australian series Life Done Differently. And you had mentioned at the time they had just recorded a furry thing where I forget what he said, but an Australian gets a furry suit and walks around downtown in a furry suit and something like that. At that time, it hadn't been released. As of now, it's actually been released about 3 months ago, and I haven't watched that episode yet. It's only like 14 minutes long, but shout out to that. So, any fur, just go to YouTube and Google Life Done Differently Furry. And you'll get something called Furry Secrets Uncovered. I think it's the same episode you were talking about. I mean, there's probably only one that has to do with furry, so there it is. And one more thing that I noticed.
Okay, hurry up.
This was also the episode... This was also the episode where I read from Furcas's book, and so at the end, for whatever reason, I said, sometimes you have to have a good cry, and sometimes you have to have a malto meal.
Yes.
And that's it. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so the name of the section is Last Week Today, not Last Season Today.
I know, but I'm getting caught up.
I'm just letting you know that. Okay.
Okay.
So joining us amidst all that was Rain Raccoon for 5 Minute
Rain.
Furs.
Sorry,
and
Rain.
Rain is...
Hi, guys.
Rain is one of our staff members, and he was threatening in the chat to join in if nobody joined in. So here he is. Hi, Rain. How are you tonight? How are you doing tonight?
Easy for you to say. I'm doing great. How are you?
Not too bad. Tabin, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. I feel really bad for both of you for like having to put up with me, but I'm doing
We're
fine.
used to it.
True.
That's true. We are very used to it. So, Rain, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a raccoon, and I'm very into steampunk stuff, so I'm kind of a steampunk raccoon. I never grew up around raccoons because I grew up in the Mojave Desert, so when I visited my godmother for the first time, she had a pet raccoon.
Wow.
And yes, I was just totally enamored with it. And I couldn't think of anything better to be than a raccoon.
Wow.
Sounds about right. Did you listen to the episode with Finn?
Yes, I've listened to all the episodes.
Oh, that's right. You have.
Being a staff member, he should listen to all the episodes.
And I believe I booked Finn. So,
Yes.
Well, because he talked about raccoons a lot too over there in Germany. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean they're very prevalent in Germany, and unfortunately the Mojave Desert doesn't have many of them. I think it's just too dry and hot there.
Yeah, that sounds like a thing. Yeah.
Were there any penguins there?
No penguins.
But you
no
know what
penguins.
you call it? You know what you call a penguin in the desert?
Lost.
Absolutely, yes.
And are there any wildebeests in the Mojave Desert?
No, and no hinder fruit either.
And there's no hinder fruit. How can you
no,
even
it's too
survive?
dry for hinder fruit.
It's too dry.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
That's why you don't live there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I moved up to the Pacific Northwest where it's beautiful and has rain and
it's moist.
It does have,
that
and
good
we
stuff,
just
moist
like
stuff.
we have rain right now. You have rain.
Yes.
We have rain.
We all have rain.
Rain.
And what do you
raccoons.
do? What do you like to do in the Great Pacific Northwest, Mr. Raccoon?
Well, my hubby and I like to go hiking and kayaking and, tromp around in the snow. We take our pug and go fun places with our pug, and he loves the beach. And we took him to the snow the other day, and he had a blast up at Mount Hood in
Mount
the
Hood?
snow.
Oh, cool. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Does he burrow in the snow?
No, but he actually kind of fell through the snow in a couple
Uh-oh.
spots. We didn't realize it was as deep as it was up there still.
So he accidentally
So-
buried.
Yeah.
It was probably like about 13 inches of snow up there still
Oh,
by Lake
no.
Trillium. And yeah, we hit a couple of spots where it was just really deep and he sunk like a rock.
Was he confused when you pulled him out?
A little bit, but he was very happy about it. You've met Yanto. He loves
yeah.
he loves everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it was just another adventure for him.
Cool. Oh, it looks like Tabin left and came back for
Hi.
some reason.
Oh.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Welcome back,
Well,
Tabin.
thank you. It's good to be back.
Didn't
Thanks
even
for
realize
having
you
me
were
on...
gone.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks for having me on the show that you didn't realize that I was on.
I guess you do get to call in tonight.
I do. I was wondering when I would finally make it on to 5 Minute First for Fun, and here I am.
So,
Tabin, welcome to 5 Minute First for
Thank
Fun.
you. Thanks
so
for having
Rain,
me.
tell now you just confused everybody in the Podiverse because they're not sure what's going on happening now.
I'm
So
not,
let me ask-
I know I'm not.
If they've been listening to our show, they know how
it's this
it
right.
goes.
So
Yes.
somebody asked me to describe our show, and I said it's kind of like the Seinfeld of podcasting. It's a show about nothing.
kind of, well,
like-
I mean,
It's
a show about nothing but everything. I think we cover a lot of stuff.
Which is what they said Seinfeld was when they were
Yeah.
talking about. Do you remember the episode of Seinfeld where they were talking about pitching a show to NBC, and it was going to be about them, and they were going to call it Seinfeld, and they said it's a show about nothing. And it was
Yeah,
literally
well-
just that. So I was like, that's kinda
I've
funny.
watched quite a few episodes of Seinfeld, and I would agree that, yeah, our show holds some similarities because there's a lot of nothing, but we pack a lot of love into that.
We
nothing.
pack a lot of love into nothing. And the funny thing about Seinfeld is I've tried to watch it again now, and it is just not. It did not last. It did not hold
No,
its.
it's like a special part of time that
Yeah,
it's
it-
just not revisitable.
You watch it now, and you're like, "Oh, that is just not right." No. Kind of like All in the Family. Also, I mean, there's only like 20.
Yeah, there's a couple of episodes of All in the Family that have held up over the years.
Yeah, but most don't.
But a lot of them are very hard to watch these days.
Now, you know what show does hold up over time? Golden Girls.
Thank you for being a friend.
Golden Girls holds up really well
Well.
over time.
Oh, yeah.
And I Love Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
I Love Lucy is another one of those classic, just television shows that holds up, forever.
Yeah. Hi, Tabin. How you doing?
Hi. I'm doing good. How are you first tonight?
Well, pretty good. We were
We're
talking
great.
about old television shows. Were you, like, lost about all that? It's like,
I don't even know what's happening right now,
well, that's very
but
common
I never
for a
do.
Tabin pup.
So,
Yeah.
hi.
So it's condition normal.
Condition normal.
So,
yes.
Rain, I had a question for you. Now, all I have to do is
Sure.
remember what that question was.
That would be helpful.
It would be. My question was. Oh, I remember. So, tell us about editing the show.
I mean, I could go hours on this, and we only have really 5 minutes to go in on this.
Well,
But,
we're past the 5-minute mark, so just.
oh
go
gosh,
ahead.
yeah,
So,
we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyways,
It's my fault. It's my fault.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll forgive you this time. But yeah, I love editing the show. I do interviews, like a lot of the interviews that get edited. Barely and Bixby and I split up all the workload, and sometimes I edit, and sometimes Barely edits, and sometimes Bixby edits. But I really enjoy editing them, especially the parts where you go off the rails.
Which happens. Like, that's the entire episode, is
Yeah, as it were.
Yeah, as it were.
Dun,
You
dun,
know,
dun.
So the thing about Rain is Rain does such a great job with our difficult problem interviews when we have technical issues or sound issues or microphone issues. Rain does an awesome job fixing things so that it sounds really good on the podcast.
Thank you.
So
Yay,
that's,
Rain. Thank
he's
you,
my go-to
Rain.
guy when I download the stems and it's like, oh yeah, Rain's getting this one. So
Yeah, and I really like the challenge. So I mean, it's what keeps life interesting. I mean, if you're not
The
challenging
editing our
yourself-
show. Not every fur can say that.
not everybody can say that life is interesting
Yeah.
by editing the Barely Furcasting featuring Tabin show. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only a couple of us who've done it, so
That's true. It's a small group.
It's true.
small
You're
group.
very
Yes,
unique.
yes.
You're like that bunny. You're very unique.
very unique.
So, Rain, if you had to say something to the podcast world right now, as your parting shot as a 5-minute furs, what would you tell every fur out there to do?
Be kind to yourself and each other. I mean, that's, to me, the most important thing. There's just too much just nastiness in the world right now. And I think we should just be kind to everybody.
I agree. I wag for that.
All right, Terrain, our 5 minutes are up. You need to
Terrain?
get off. Terrain.
Did you-
Okay,
did you
Terrain.
say okay,
Terrain.
I'm not...
We're walking around on you.
Oh, a soup terrain. I was talking about the ground. So,
I was talking about
terrain.
the ground too.
Oh,
terrain.
Or a terrain, yes. A terrain
yeah.
or a terrain. Or a train.
Terrain or not to
Or a
rain?
train,
That
or a
is the
train.
question. Exactly.
Is rain
Wow.
trainable? That's the question, yes.
No, not at
No.
all.
Okay, all right. All right, Rain. Take care. Have a great time. We'll talk
All right,
to you
you
later.
guys take care.
All right, bye.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
again, Rain. Bye bye, Bark.
All right, so we should get into our newest section of Fluffster's Abridged Dictionary. And why is it
Yes.
abridged?
Because we have to get there somehow.
And
No,
we have to cross over it.
so we have to crossing over
Crossing over, not the Rainbow Bridge, because that would mean we have moved on to the next plane.
to the next
We
slide.
don't
Yeah,
wanna
we
do
don't.
that.
We don't
No,
want to do that. No.
We don't want to do that. So, all right. So today's word is,
Enough of morbidism, I guess.
I know. Today's word is scroof.
Scroof. Is
Scroof.
this? Did I say this at some point?
Yes. Whenever
Oh.
you say words, I tend to write them down,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and then I must define them. We got to define the words. So a scroof is kind of like a sponge. No, it's kind of like a spoon. Totally different items. A sponge and a
Yeah.
spoon.
Turns out.
They're different tools for different items. Yeah.
If you try and
So-
use a sponge to eat soup, you're not going to eat much.
Well, you soak it up. I mean, you could.
I guess you
could
could.
soak
Yeah,
up the-
yeah.
and
It's a
then just-
totally different
and then just-
mechanism, though. Yes.
Squish it into your mouth. But it'd have to be all
There you go.
liquid, no vegetables. Vegetables? Or vegetables?
No vegetable. No vegetable.
Vegetables.
Oh, barely I love.
Life goes on and on and on. So a scroof
Especially here. Yes.
is like a spoon, but it's specific to a type of fruit.
Ah.
So you have to have a scroof spoon or a scroofer for each type of fruit that you're going to scroof.
Yeah.
Does that make
That's-
sense?
It does it. Well, I said it, so it better.
You would need to have like an apple scroof or a pineapple scroof or a banana scroof, but never ever ever try to scroof a barking pineapple on a purple fluff moon night, because
That's
purple
right.
fluff
That's
moons
true.
are really they're one of the worst moons for the barking pineapples.
Right.
If you're ever around a barking pineapple field and it's a purple fluff moon, just stay away, because
Just stay away. That's not a
it's
good
just-
combination.
It's just very bad. So if you tried to scroof a barking pineapple on a purple fluff moon night, they won't release their fruit.
Oh, can't do that. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, and basically you're just going to squish that fruit, and then you're just going to have barking pineapple juice, and that's
Juice.
not. It's
That's not.
just
It's not right.
like-
That's just not.
That's not what it's for. No.
And for any fur that is wondering, barking pine, where did that come from? Listen to last week's episode, and then you will still not understand. But there it is.
Well, yeah, maybe because we defined all the different fruits that the Tabin labs are working on. In
They're
the horticulturists.
tapenologists.
Yes, the tapenologists in the Tabin labs making fruits.
So Rain was talking about we were talking about this. It's nothing. We do nothing here. I think this is.
We do nothing here. This is all made up, but
You're not really listening to this. You're not.
you're not really. These are not the Tabins you're looking for.
These are not the tapings you're really looking for.
No. So that's the Fluffster's Abridged Dictionary for tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
We made it through that. That's
We made
good.
it through that
We're not done
somehow. I
yet.
don't
We
know.
got more. We
I
got
know.
more.
We got more to go. More to go. Hang on tight, folks, because there's more to come.
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
You know the answer to this. I'm curious. It's another word defining thing, and you're good at defining words. So could
Okay.
you tell me and all our listeners, barely, what is an arbitrator?
An arbitrator? Oh, that is somebody that leaves Arby's to go work at McDonald's.
Exactly. Thank you for helping us out with that, Mr. Barely. So I have some interesting sciencey things that I learned.
Ooh,
this last
sciencey
week.
things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's about figs, fig trees and plants and things like that.
Figs, you say?
Figs. So the plant, not the fruit, but the plant in particular is what I'm talking about now. So they have something rare and unusual about figs is that they have aerial roots. And orchids do too, have aerial roots. So these, of course, are roots that don't go into the ground, but they just like hang there, and they get their moisture, and from the air they get moisture and stuff, and that's how they get their nutrients. I always thought those roots were just like they were looking for the ground but couldn't find it, so I felt bad for the poor plants. But no, they're supposed to be like that.
So now wait a minute, wait. So, but a fig tree literally has roots in the ground.
It does.
Otherwise, the tree would fall over. I mean, it's not like it leans up against the fence and goes, "Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?"
Hey,
well, it also has
come
aerial
pick
roots.
my figs, man.
Come pick my figs.
Come pick my
Let's go out for a good night on the town.
Yeah, those figs. Those
you like
are good
those figs.
Yeah.
No, they also have aerial roots, but also like fig plants. Also, like there's a whole variety of fig stuff, not just the tree. And so a lot of these fig plants have aerial. But if you look at orchids too, the only reason I know is because I have some orchids, and their little roots are just hanging out there, and it's like I feel bad for them. But no, I don't have to feel bad for them anymore because they're supposed to be that.
Because that's how they get their stuff. Okay, well.
And because of this, figs and fig trees can expand like long ways horizontally, like their canopy can be very big. And so interesting to know.
I had a canopy once, but that was when I was camping and we didn't have a restroom.
I was waiting. I was wondering how long it would take you to say that, actually.
Well, it didn't take long at all.
It takes time. So it turns out that the biggest known fig tree is in Calcutta, India. It covers... Are you ready for this, Barely? It covers...
I'm ready. Tell me about it.
This one tree covers 3 acres.
Wow, that's a big tree.
And it has 1,357 aerial roots.
Wow. Somebody counted them.
Someone must have counted them, actually. I didn't think about that. Someone actually counted them.
Someone had to count them.
That's the only reason I know. No, that's a good point. And it's estimated to have originated in the year 1787.
Wow. 1787.
So another really interesting thing, and I don't know. Oh, yeah.
I have a question for you. Why did you think about figs this week?
Why did that's an even better question. Why did that come up? So my honey, he reads a lot, and he has a lot of books about like plants, and this is a book about ficus, the exotic bonsai. Well, let me ask you, Barely, what's the correct way to pronounce Bonsai?
Bonsai.
It's not like bonsai, no, it's not that. Anyway.
So what is the correct pronunciation? Is it bonsai? Bonsai?
It's not bonsai. That's the thing. It's not bonsai. That's when you're like running and stuff, and that's what everyone thinks. But it's not.
They've been wrong in Cobra Kai every time Daniel says it's a bonsai tree.
Yes.
Oh. You hear that, Netflix? Fix it.
Fix it now. You have to re-record every single episode now because of
yes.
That. So a really interesting thing about figs.
So you're not going to tell us how it's pronounced, is what you're saying?
I know how it's pronounced, but I'm afraid of pronouncing it wrong now after we talk about all of that.
Okay, so next week, tune in next week when we have Tatsu come on and tell us how to pronounce it.
There you go. We'll do that because he knows. And I think if I said it right now, I would say it right, but now I'm like all worried, and especially now that we need to have Tatsu come on and say it. We'll do that. So another really interesting thing about figs. Let me just read this from this book. One of the most amazing relationships is the codependence of the fig tree and its wasp. Did you know about this?
I think I did, yes.
Yeah, I did not. It's really interesting. They actually have a codependent relationship. Each species of fig has its own specific fig wasp that lives on the fig tree and fertilizes the fig flowers. This specific wasp must be present to allow the fig to set fertile seed. In turn, the fig wasp and its larvae live on the juices and sugars of the fig fruits. A fig imported to another geographic area without its wasp, which I think is just kind of a cute sentence right there, without its wasp can only be spread by vegetative propagation, since fertile seed cannot then be produced because it doesn't have its the wasp as well cannot survive without its specific fig host tree.
Well, look at
Now,
that.
of course,
That's a symbiotic relationship.
It's and of course, as with every rule, there are exceptions, and some varieties of the fig may not require its wasp to or a wasp to form a viable seed. So that was very interesting.
So I have a friend that lives in the town of Canby, Oregon. When there's a pun there, it's a town with a lot of potential. It's Canby. But he has a very large fig tree, and come middle of June, end of July, is when the figs ripen and become very, very sweet. And there are thousands of wasps around the tree.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know what kind of wasps they are. Clearly, they are the fig wasp for that fig tree.
That makes sense now.
And I was like, wow, it was very... But I've picked the figs from the tree, but I've never been harmed by any of the wasps. So I'm not sure whether the
they
wasps
didn't care.
attack.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So,
Interesting.
but he has said to me, be careful when you cut them open, because if there's wasp larvae in there, you don't want to eat the fruit.
That stands to reason. I would have to agree with that.
And I was like, well, why don't you spray for freaking wasps then? But then now I know
The tree might die.
be there. Yeah, the tree would die if the wasps
That's
are
really
gone.
interesting. Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Look
Who
at
knew?
that. Who knew?
Who knew?
And then I think it was because of this for some reason or something. I don't remember how we started getting onto populations. Me and my honey were looking at this. And interesting, this is trivia. So Oregon, the fine state in which we live, the population density, there's 41 people per square mile.
Okay.
Okay. Now, there's bigger population densities though. Mumbai has 70,000 people per square mile.
Wow.
So compare that to the 41 we have in
41
Oregon.
or 70,000.
That's a big difference. Now, that's not the biggest though.
Okay.
The biggest is actually tied between Dhaka, which is Bangladesh, and Manila in the Philippines. They're both at about, are you ready?
I'm ready.
120,000 people per square mile.
Well, and that's why in Manila they have to fold them over, because then they're Manila folders.
That's exactly why.
Sometimes I make myself laugh.
I
come up with this crap.
I got nothing. That's it.
And what did your mum buy? Well, she bought groceries. That's what my mum bought. Mum buy? What did mum buy? She bought treats. I'm sorry. Okay. Wow. I have made Jabin speechless.
So what about Canby then?
Well, it's a town with potential. Do you know that Canby is the only city in Oregon that has its own superhero?
Oh, really? I did not
really
know that,
does.
barely.
It has its own superhero. Yes. He wears a cape and a costume and goes out and fights crime in Canby.
Wait, so this isn't a joke? This is a thing?
No, this is a thing.
This
Yes.
is a thing.
This is an actual thing.
I'm going to have to look this up because I definitely did not know that.
You look it up and you talk about it next week.
Next week. I'll
find
write that down.
Yes.
Last week. Okay.
All right. So let's move along. If you are done with your stuff, let's move along to media. What do you say? There you go. Media. All right.
Oh, barely.
Barely,
What is even
barely.
wrong with me?
I don't know. A year and a half of doing this is wrong with us. That's what's wrong with us. That's pretty much. All right. So I am still watching the Game of Thrones, or rewatching the Game of Thrones.
Nice.
I'm up to episode 5 or 6 or something like that. Arrested Ned Stark. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I'm sure that shortly, and no spoilers because everybody knows about anybody, but I'm sure shortly he will lose his head.
Literally.
Yes.
And Arya will be there to
Arya
witness.
will be there, and it will cause her to become one of the faceless men. I don't know, something like that. And then my honey bought me a book.
Really? Because you're not reading enough. There you go.
But it's called The Complete Whiskey Course,
Of course.
a comprehensive tasting school in 10 classes. And so
10?
I'm reading this book. It's kind of like a textbook, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I am a whiskey person. I like whiskey. It's my podcast fluid of choice. And then beer is the second. But in fact, any fur that comes to a con, if you would like to step outside, have a wee dram of whiskey and a cigar with me, I would be happy with you. I'd be very happy to have a wee dram of whiskey and a cigar.
That's what my mum buy.
Mum buy whiskey and cigars, yes.
Dad's very happy about that.
And then I have to say, Furry is moving into mainstream media.
This pop doesn't know about that, but okay.
Okay, so have you ever watched Bob's Burgers, the cartoon Bob's Burgers?
I have watched Bob's Burgers. A few episodes, not a lot, but some.
Okay, so it's on Hulu, and I know you have Hulu. Go and watch the episode that aired on May 9th. And in it, Tina, the oldest Belcher child, sees a picture, and they're in a dentist office, and they're reading the magazines. And on one of the magazines, there's a picture of a red fox scientist.
Oh, okay.
Very much drawn like every furry out there.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, "Well, hello, handsome. Aren't you?
Oh,
is it wrong? Is it wrong that I'm
cow.
falling in love with a red fox?"
I mean, Zootopia, baby. We're talking Nick Wilde all over the place. So
yeah. So
wow,
it was
I
just
will
like,
have to watch this. This is exciting.
Yeah, and it's very much a furry red fox, and it's a scientist fox, and it's just like, and I watched that, I was like, furries in the mainstream. More furries in the mainstream.
Not just the news, but the mainstream.
Yep. Okay, so that's my media. What have you been doing in media?
So I mentioned last week that we finished the new season of Young Sheldon. So we started. You might remember we talked about. I was watching Man with a Plan at one point.
Yes.
Very very good show. We watched season 1, and then we started season 2. Very good show, I must say. I highly recommend it. It has, for any fur that doesn't know, one of the leads is Matt LeBlanc, I should say, which was Joey from Friends. And it has Kevin Nealon plays his brother. And Kevin does such a good job in this. It's like they casted him so perfectly. It's like everything he does and says is so Kevin Nealon. It's so good. It also has Stacy Keach in it. It plays the father of the main guy. Do you remember who Stacy Keach is?
Yes.
Good answer. Yes.
Well, no, I do.
So, he's been in so many things, and it's actually pretty cool to see him there. And it also, just in a recent episode I watched, had an appearance by Tim Meadows. So they've got a lot of good people in there, and it's a very good show. So, and then we also started watching, again, thank you, Barely, for recommending it. I still can't believe I haven't seen it before, but started watching Picard. We talked about that a little bit last week.
Oh, you did start watching it.
Very good.
Cool.
We hadn't started watching it last week when we talked about it, but just in the last week we started. Yeah, very, very, very good. And, that inspired me to watch, some other Star Trek. So started watching an episode of Star Trek Next Generation. And there's a very good, in this particular episode, there's a very good dialogue between Picard and Number One. And so Picard, they were talking about like hosting a big event or something. I forget exactly what. But Picard was asking Number One, what would it take to buy or hire a singing ensemble? And Number One said, you mean acquire? And Picard said, okay, fine. How much would it be to acquire a singing ensemble?
That was actually in the show?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was just me being me.
Oh, because if that was in the show, I was going to go back and watch that show.
Yeah, no, it's like, which episode was that? Anyway, yeah, so that's my media anyway.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, it's not. There's a little bit more.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing? How you doing?
That's what Joey always said. How you doing?
Oh, was that Joey that said that?
Oh yeah. How you doing?
I knew the phrase. I just didn't realize. Okay, good. I didn't ever watch Friends that much, so. But so on the East Coast right now, there's all this gas shortage and gas stocking and everything. Like as of now, anyway, like the new people are saying, like, well, the people didn't need to panic and like buy all this gas and stock up on gas and anything. And I'm thinking, yeah, because probably what's happening is there's a gas shortage because people are stocking up on gas. Hence, there's a gas shortage. So it's like if people didn't panic.
Right.
I'm putting this in the media section because it's news and everything. So another news thing, which I thought was kind of fun. So there's this farmer in Belgium, and he has a field and he plows his fields and everything. And there's this boulder that was like in the way of him. This is true. This is not a joke. This is a true thing. So just letting you know. It's a true thing. I have to say this sometimes.
Us and everybody listening is never sure when you start telling a story.
I know. But I assure you, this is not leading up to something. This is a true thing. This was in the news just recently. So there's a stone in the field, and it kept getting in the way of the farmer when he's trying to till his field. So he kept moving it, and it turns out that this stone is a marker for the border between France and Belgium. So he's literally been moving the boulder. So borders via boulders. He's been moving boulders via. Sorry, he's been moving borders via boulders. But no, it's true. And apparently he's moved it like 7.5 feet, and the Belgian government and everything is getting like they're saying move back and having him. Anyway, it's a big thing. But it was quite an interesting thing to read about. Borders via boulders.
Borders of boulders. It's the border boulder.
It's the.
Are you boulder?
I'm only boulder when I've had some puppy juice. No,
yes.
No. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Well, before we get to our guest, which our guest today is K.D.Edwards.
Yes.
That's K.D.Edwards.
Not Katie, but K.D.
Right, which we talked about last week. It's K.D., not K.T.Edwards. So I think you have a request or something for me, Tabin. Is that right?
I do.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, I was thinking the other day about remember the patty stack joke? Of course you remember that. Yeah. So... And for whatever reason, I was thinking about that and how your story about how your husband tried to tell it and everything. I think we talked about this on the FC episode. I forget which, but
we did. It was the FC episode.
It was FC. So I really would like you to tell me and our listeners that again. So say the original joke and then tell us how your hubby tried to say it because it's hilarious and I want to hear it again.
Oh, okay. So the joke goes, there was a bank manager and there was a loan arranger. The loan arranger was named Paddywhack. His last name was Paddywhack. And this frog came in and wanted a loan. Now, the loan arranger is like, well, you're a frog. Why would I give you a loan? And he says, well, I have collateral. Oh, you have collateral for the loan. Okay, what is it? And he gives him this little ceramic doll. And the loan arranger looks at him and goes, that's just a ceramic doll.
Why would I take that?
Why would I take that? He said, well, let me go talk to my manager about this. And so he goes over and he says, hey, I got this frog out there and he wants a loan. And all he's got for collateral is this little ceramic doll. And the manager goes, oh, well, that's very simple. That's a knick-knack, paddywhack. Give the frog a loan.
Or Patty Stack, because her name was Patty Stack.
I said Paddywhack. I said her name was Paddywhack.
Oh, okay.
Patty Stack is another version. Still works.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So there's, yeah. So my husband tried to tell this joke a long time ago. And he started off telling about the joke that it was used a different, I don't even remember
like a toad. Name. I think a toad came in.
Well, he said Paddywhack was the name, yeah. But then he said a toad came in instead of a frog. And then it came with a little ceramic thing. And then when he goes to the manager says, and this is my husband's punchline, well, that's a ceramic statue, Paddywhack. Give the toad some money. And I'm like, no, that's not even close.
That's so good. Yeah. That's so good. Anyway, right. I was thinking about that, and I wanted to hear it again, so thank you for that.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our guest, K.D.Edwards.
K.D.Edwards. So exciting, so wonderful. Let's talk to K.D.Edwards.
Joining us today is K.D.Edwards, well-known author and YouTuber, because I've seen you on YouTube. I think you've just been a guest on YouTube. You don't make your own YouTube, do you?
No.
Okay.
But so he has been on YouTube. He's a great YouTuber. There you go.
Yes. Not an intertuber, but a YouTuber.
My readers YouTube about me, which is pretty awesome.
Yes,
There you go.
yes.
So secondhand YouTuber, if nothing else.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And we have a little show. Thanks for being on our cute little show. It's different than what you're used to. I apologize now for all the bad jokes and puns that are going to happen. I tried to prep you with a lot of stuff beforehand, but that I left off because it's more natural if you just react to the weirdness.
Can do.
So,
Hi, Mr. KD. How are you today?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for having me here.
Wonderful. And I did not introduce myself before. My name is Tabin. I'm a pup bark bark. It's so great to have you join our fluff on this fine evening. At least it's definitely evening for you over there on the fine East Coast.
Yes.
So I first have to ask the question, like the big important question. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Okay. Do you know what a furry is?
I am learning. I've actually done quite a bit of research since you guys asked me to be on this, and it has been, I actually tweeted about it tonight. I've been reading some articles, including some just really, really cool articles about this conference that happened in 2016 in Vancouver, and learning different things about the community, which is, I think, the thing that's come across most. It's a community. It's people with, you see, I'm going to get in trouble if I try to describe it. I feel like I'm not going to mansplain that. But I will say that one of the things I've learned is that I get invited to a lot of podcasts from communities that I'm not a part of, and across the board, it's always been it's just something filled with this massive amount of love and acceptance, family bonding, people showing each other support, and just, simple common decency. So everything I've been reading over the last week has just been filled with love and great things, and I'm learning. So I'm actually really excited to be on this podcast.
well, that's great news.
That is great news to hear there are good things said about us. But I think you're right that the furry fandom, the furry community is pretty much, well, I think one of the most supportive, accepting out there. Everything you just said. So I guess it's okay for me to say that. So yay, thank you. And so now, well, you've done some reading, and so maybe you'll know what this is. So I'll ask you, do you have a fursona?
I don't, but I did actually spend quite a bit of time researching what it would be.
Nice.
See, I don't. You see, I can actually ask questions because I'm not 100% sure.
Well, that's
so.
cool.
Do fursonas include, does it have to be mammal, or can it be like COVID or crow or magpie?
Well, so I mean, typically, historically, a fursona is more of an anthropomorphic, like a animal anthropomorphic thing. But then furries like to go crazy sometimes, and there have been memes about having a COVID fursona and a pineapple fursona and all kinds of things. But typically, it's more of an animal thing.
But there are crows. We have a good friend Moritz, who is a crow, and there are owls, and there are protogens, which are kind of a hybrid of different things, and then there are scalies in there that are lizards and whatnot. So there's all sorts of quote-unquote fursonas. So.
Well, I settled on either crow or a raven, and
There you
then
go.
honey badger. Honey badger is the other direction I'd go in.
Honey
That
badger.
is- I have
awesome.
not seen any honey badger fursonas.
Well, I
in
feel
my
even better
travels.
about that choice
Yeah,
then.
no, you're already unique. You're starting great. So you probably haven't been to any fur cons. You read about it. Sounds like you read about Vancouver, cute little small con that I haven't been to yet, but I hear it's really good. But have you been to any other conventions like anime or Comic Cons or things like that?
I've really only just started getting my feet wet in the conference circuit. I've gone to a couple. There's a new con in Atlanta called Multiverse that I've gone to since the beginning. I went to one in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I was really starting to go to more when the pandemic hit, so that really disrupted everything. But going forward, I know that I'm going to be going to con in North Carolina. I'm trying to go to Dragon Con. No,
Oh,
not
cool.
Dragon Con. Well, yes, I think I applied for that, and Worldcon 2, I think, is in DC this year. So all
Nice.
sorts of things that I might be going to. We'll see how it
Mhm.
turns out, but I love doing that. So I'm really hoping that the next year I do some catch up.
Nice. I wag for you all over the place. That's what I do. I wag. And so maybe someday I'll get to hug you at a FurCon. Wouldn't that just be exciting for both of us?
I love meeting my readers so much. Wherever I go, even if it's not a con, I try to kind of put the word out like, hey, let's meet in the hotel bar or coffee shop or something and
Nice.
just get to know people. It's one of the best parts of being a writer.
Nice. Yeah, nice. You get to go all over and learn lots of things and stuff. So let's see. You are on the East Coast, and where specifically are you out there in this world of ours?
I grew up in Massachusetts, but I'm now relocated to North Carolina. So that's where I've been for about longer than I thought. 15 years now. Damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. I look at what memories I just brought up for you. I'm so sorry. So what brought you out to North Carolina from Massachusetts?
Well, I kind of been a little bit of everywhere. I grew up in Massachusetts, spent a lot of time in New Hampshire, went to school in Maine. When I graduated, lived in Boston for about 5 years, moved over to Colorado, back to Boston, then over to Missoula, Montana, then Washington State, and then at that point I was ready to come back to the East Coast, and my entire nuclear family, piece by piece, had relocated to North Carolina. My sister came, she started a family here, my parents retired, they followed her, so it made sense for me to come down here, and I haven't regretted it. It's a beautiful part of the country.
Nice.
I really do love North Carolina. Politics aside, I love the state.
Good. Well, wow, you have been all over the fluff. That's amazing. So, getting down to the nitty-gritty-ish, as it were, if you will, whatever I'm talking about now, I really don't know, but there it is. But I am a pup, and I do this kind of thing. So, you're writing. It turns out that you're a writer. Did you know that?
I do know that.
You didn't? Okay,
lifelong goal.
Good. I'm glad you could aspire to that. And now we know the truth. So you've wanted to do it for a long time, obviously. What got you into it? And how long has it been?
I've wanted to be a writer since the beginning. I don't remember a point in my life where I did not want to be a writer. From the very, very start. I took detours along the way. I focused on jobs. I focused on where I was living. I focused on having a really good time. And then I finally get to a point in my life where all these notes I've been taking my entire life. I mean, since I was a kid, I journals and novels I started and never finished, story outlines I followed through on. I finally took everything and committed to the idea of I want to be published. I've got a good job in North Carolina. I've got a good set of friends. I'm in a fantastic writing group. And I said to myself, this is the point. I want to do it. So it took a while. I have 3 novels sitting in a drawer that no one will ever see. And then I stumbled upon the series I'm writing now, and it just worked. Every night, writers will tell you that eventually you'll find your story, and this is my story. This is the one I was meant to tell.
Nice.
That's awesome. That makes it like really exciting, and especially in that case. So and of course, I have a bunch of things to ask about the tarot sequence, your journey that you are on. But so, did you have any formal training back in the day, or did you just kind of learn here and there? You looked at YouTube and that type of thing.
Yeah, here and there. I have an English major, a BA from the college I went to, but for the most part, it's just a lifelong habit of reading, and I love television, I love graphic novels, I love video games, any sort of medium where you can tell a story, I just adore. And the biggest training I have, I suppose, is I've always been involved in writing groups, one way or the other. That's probably, if you ask me what's the number one piece of advice I'd give anyone who wants to be a published author, I'd say you got to join a good writing group. You absolutely need to do that.
Yep, that makes sense. You got to immerse yourself into it, and what better way, right?
Oh, really? That is my training. So
nice. So your process, so all artists have, I think, a different process about how they go things, and every part of the way takes a little bit different amount of time. So for you, what's your process? Do you take like a year trying to plan something else, or do you dive right in, or how does that work?
I usually wait till I look at the calendar and get terrified because my deadline is a month away.
Great. Sounds good.
No, I talk about this a lot in conferences that I've gone to and things. There's this 2 sort of schisms. You either are a pantser or you're a planner. Do you outline or do you write by the seat of your pants? And I'm an outliner. And I told you that I've wanted to be a writer my entire life, and I have journals and journals of stuff that eventually wanted to go in stories. So for me, taking all that material and then bringing it into what I'm doing now is the consummate outlining for me. That's my process. It's digging back into stuff I've been brainstorming my entire life.
Nice. And you could not have been in any way a pantser because you're a birdie. You're not a kitty.
No, I am definitely someone who needs to have I like a safety net beneath me.
That was a really horrible pun I told, and you missed it, and that's really good because that means you're a better person for it.
When the internet crackles every now and then, I take my best shot. Like,
there you go.
Assume
That's
I guess.
Yep.
Good, great.
And that's best with Tabin. 'Cause,
Yeah,
you
it
never know if
actually
he's going to come out of
is.
his muzzle there.
My little Muzz, no. And very often these days, barely just like I say something and he'll just start talking about something completely different because we should just not acknowledge anything I just said. So that works out well. So the tarot sequence, aka your journey, that's amazing. So I have to preface this by saying, I hope you don't run away right now and turn off the computer or something, but I have not read your books. Are we okay?
Yes, you are
We're
okay.
He is still here, yay. But, so my husband, so how this all started was my husband has read both your books, The Last Son and The Hangman, and he loves them both like a lot. And he noticed some of the things in there were a little bit furry adjacent, a little bit anthropomorphic and stuff, and also, magic and stuff, and, we all like fantasy and everything. So he said to me, I want to tell you about these books because they sound like kind of furry interest. So he actually came on our show a little bit ago, a few months or something, and talked about your books, and very, very exciting and interesting. Yeah, I hope all of our listeners, well, all two of them, I guess, like what they heard. But yeah, it sounded really great. And so then Rain Raccoon, who of course is on our staff and reached out to you, read the books too, and really loves them a lot too. And so of course we reached out to you, and here you are. So thank you. That was our journey to get here.
That was a long journey to give him an explanation. Yes,
it was. But so I kind of do that anyway. But so the purpose was just to say I haven't read the books, but they sound really great and interesting. And my honey has told me about them and everything. So this will be a kind of different sort of interview in that you're talking to some fur that hasn't read the book yet. So it'll be exciting and interesting.
However, we did get questions from his husband and from Rain to ask you about the books so that we act like we know what we're talking about. And you can at least give the impression that we asked pointed questions about your stories.
Right. So
I'll give you guys a secret or two. How about that?
Okay, perfect.
Ooh,
yay.
Okay. So we can also pretend the last 10 minutes didn't happen in my explanation. We've read the stories. We know everything. We're great. So for all our listeners that don't know about your wonderful, wonderful books, could you tell us a synopsis of the storyline of the tarot sequence so far?
Sure. It's I guess what you would call an urban fantasy, which is you take the world as it exists right now and you add in supernatural elements to it. And my series imagines that Atlantis always existed and it's a part of the world. And so I'm reimagining the mythology of Atlantis in the modern day. So magic existing side by side with technology. The structure of Atlantis, actually, when it revealed itself to the world, was destroyed, and they resettled on an island, which was actually Nantucket off the coast of Massachusetts, and they've created a new city called New Atlantis. And it's mostly a story about what goes on in the city, but specifically one court, the Sun Court. I base all my major power centers on the island around tarot cards and the major arcana of tarot cards. The family that I focus on is the Sun card, and Rune and his lifelong bodyguard Brand are the two main characters. And it's a series with a heavy gay and lesbian plus interest, a lot of found family elements. I try to put a lot of love in there, a lot of humor, and a lot of action as well. So that's the overview.
Nice. Yes, that's it. I mean, just from that, it sounds very exciting and wonderful. And how did you, so this is pretty interesting. So you've got Atlantis, and then you've got Massachusetts, and then you've got magic, and then you've got furry things. And it's like, where did your inspiration come from? Where did you come up with all this?
Part of it is there are certain things I've always been interested in. I love lost civilizations, all of them. Throughout the mythology of humankind, they've talked about civilizations that have been lost. Atlantis is well known, but there are others. I also love the tarot cards because they're based on archetypes, and the archetypes are reflections of human behavior and human emotion. And combine that with about an entire lifetime of notes of fantasy settings that I've always wanted to do, along with my own archetype characters, and it just kind of led to this. It's like I said, I have hundreds of thousands of words that I brainstormed over my entire life, and taking the best of what I've always imagined and finally sitting down and making a series. It's something I'm not sure I could have done 20 years ago, but I'm ready to do now.
Nice. So it's a really a lifetime catharsis in a way of lots of things and your life process kind of. So that's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, it's ambitious from the start. When I reached out and I connected with my agent, Sarah Megabo, and eventually sold to Pyre for a 2-book contract, and then it got extended for 2 more books. So I'm under contract for the next book as well. But I want to do 9 books in the series. And before I even sold the first novel, I knew exactly what every novel is going to be about and where I want to go with the series. So it definitely is a lifetime work.
Wow. You're just at the beginning then. That's pretty cool.
I am. The 3rd book is coming out hopefully this year, and it'll be the end of the first trilogy, 3 trilogies.
Okay,
total.
cool. But so they're all connected, but they're all like their
Very
own
much.
trilogies.
Yes.
Wow. That's
So wait a minute.
quite an exciting
So
thing.
this is the first of the end. The first. Wait a minute. This is the end of the first trilogy, and you
Yes.
said there is 3 trilogies coming out, so
Yep.
9 books total.
6 more books after this, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm impressed.
It's all one story, and I've been planning it for years
Wow.
and years and
I
years.
bet. That's exciting. That's no, it's always great to know that, you get really into a book or a series or something, then you get to book 3 or something, then like, oh no, I'm done. And it's like, no, there's so much. So now, like, at least there's a long way more in the journey to go. We don't have to feel like we're just done all of a sudden. So that's great. And so speaking of New Atlantis, it has such diversity and of mythological, I can talk, no I can't, creatures and people. So where did you get the idea to meld magic and modern day? Was that just part of the creative process over the past 20 years or something?
I think I've always been attracted to stories that break the rules. I mean, why have just one? Why just have high fantasy? Why can't you have science fiction as well? Why can't you do both? Why can't it be set in the modern world? Why can't the wizard also have an iPhone? So I like, it's a combination of a lot of genres. Like, it's an action story at heart, but it's also a found family story. It's also one with relationships in it. There's a lot of, like I said, LGBT plus interest in the story. There's a lot of mystery in it. So there's breaking all the rules. I'm trying to define my own genre.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Or possum, as it were, not the little thing that runs on the ground, but yeah. Anyway. Good. That one stuck. So, do you do any research for this? Like, did you have to research any Atlantean culture or anything?
No, not well. Thank God, no. No one can prove me right or wrong when it comes to Atlantis. So that's
That's true.
But I do a ton of research. The New Atlantis was built by stitching together human ruins from across the world. So I'm constantly researching ruins. A big story arc in book 2 was set on a battleship, and it was based upon the battleship North Carolina. I spent 9 months researching that, like literally writing some of the book on the deck of the battleship North Carolina. So I try to do a lot of research. The 4th book is going to be an American road trip, and that's my next big research effort. I'm actually going to be sitting down with a really good friend this weekend and putting a map of the United States in front of me, and she's a cross-country trucker, and she's going to help me come up with a route.
Nice. It's really cool when it's not really fantasy when you like kind of live it like you're doing. So that's kind of cool.
I try to. I think one of the reasons I do that is because one of the things I never expected is that I don't write in a vacuum. Once I send it out, I always thought that as a writer, you'd send it off into the world and people would like it or they wouldn't like it, and then you'd move on and write the next thing. What I never, ever predicted was that I'd kind of build a community. Readers who want to interact with me, who interact with each other. They've created Discord channels where they can talk about my books, and they give me ideas and they give me thoughts, and they want to be involved in the process. So when I talk about planning a road trip for the characters across the country, I'm literally asking people, hey, what's a good place for these characters to stop?
Nice.
Where do you live? Where are my readers concentrated? Maybe I can go through there. So there is a weird blurring between what I write and what I live.
Really? Wow. It's not just a fan base. It's you're part of your I don't know what the right words are, but yeah.
You're building a community. And if you get to Oregon, hit us up. We'll give you some tours around here.
Will do. I love Oregon. When I lived in Washington State, I did regional department store stuff. I don't think the department store exists anymore. It used to be called Shopco.
Yes.
I was so Shopco. The Oregon was one of the states that I would fly to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember
Nice.
Shopco. Poor little Shopco. No, it's gone
Shopko.
now. Yeah. It's gone.
Yeah, that was a while
Poor
ago.
little shop.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we move on, I guess. So Here is I'll admit, it's a question from Rain, because he knows more than I do about things. So Rune and Adam, so for all our listeners out there, Rune and Adam are kind of some of the main characters in this story, and they're amazing. And they have an amazing and sweet relationship, it turns out, for deeper reasons, which I'm sure we'll leave. You've got to read the book to really find out about this amazing relationship. But where did the inspiration for their beautiful relationship come from? Or did it just happen?
No, I think that's one of the craziest things about what my experience has been with writing is how much I've learned from my readers. I thought when I did this series, I was literally the king of diversity, because here I have this urban fantasy book with all these gay characters in them. These gay white males, and this is me thinking I'm diverse. And then come to find out, the readers, especially the really good readers, they would leave these wonderful reviews and they would say, "Hey, I love this, but," and they would talk to me about everything I'm leaving off the table, about what diversity really is, the different, even within, the community, the gay and lesbian community, just the scope of what that means. And one of the things I learned about in particular was about demisexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started talking about Rune and Adam, it was much more of a traditional relationship, because, hey, books have relationships, and hey, this is a story with a gay man, and I've got to obviously give him a lover. But the more I knew about my characters, and the more I understood different aspects of sexuality, including demisexuality, which is really hesitating about getting involved in relationships until you really understood someone, until you could really trust someone. And that impacted the way that these characters, Rune and Adam, interact. And I think that's what's increased my readership. And certainly in the second book, I left behind a lot of the darker, sort of more clueless elements I had. And as I grew, as I learned more from my readers, it impacted the characters and their relationships. So if people do like Rune and Adam, I owe the readers a lot for that, for helping me develop that.
Nice.
In fact, I even corrected some of the original scenes in some free material I published to represent that, my learning, and what this means, and how Rune would be much more cautious getting in a relationship. So if it's sweet, it's because my readers have made it that way, in the best way possible.
Awesome. That's, again, another great way you're incorporating like everyone together in your journey. And I have to say, so speaking of like diverse reading and everything, if you want more diverse reading to get some ideas for things, read some furry stuff like Kyle Gold or Ruckus or something. For example, one of the first books I read by Kyle Gold, it's a furry gay romance spy novel written in medieval times. So if that isn't diverse,
Nice. See, I love
good
John. I love books that smash genres, that cross genres, and basically say, I'm going to tell my own story no matter what the rules say.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do have. I mean, I don't know what furry readers would consider, things that relate to their community, but God knows I've got themes lined up in the future for shapeshifters.
Mm-hmm.
For people
Nice.
who shift between human and animal form, and I've been laying the groundwork for that for 3 books. I've mentioned every now and then that there are 2 major characters, or not major characters, but the powerful characters on the island, the ones based upon the major arcana in the tarot deck. Lord Devil is a transgendered man, and Lady Moon is someone that Lord Devil is very close with, and I've deliberately kept them off the page because Lord Devil is in charge of the shapeshifters of the island, and that's going to be a very big storyline for the second trilogy, the end of the second trilogy. And I'm really excited about these new characters too. So
Nice.
I am on that journey as well, learning more about
Wow. Nice. No, that's I wag. You make me wag all over the place. That's all I can say. No, that's really exciting. So and this isn't really a spoiler for all of our listeners. This is kind of a thing that you will see. And as a disclaimer to you, Katie, you can say, here's maybe the answer to the question is read the 3rd book. Maybe the answer to this question. But so again, it's a question from Rain. So Rain, sorry if that's going to be the answer, but there it is. So by the end of the 2nd book, Max and Quinn seem to be getting very close. Is there possibility of a romantic relationship brewing between those?
You were going to get me in so much trouble. You have no idea. I don't know if I can answer that question without having to face the consequence.
Okay.
Because they're really, one of the things that I feel most gratified about is that every time people talk about what they experience when they read my books, there's always a different character they talk about. There's always someone they associate with. So just because I started the story with these two main characters, I never predicted that some of the secondary characters would do as well as they do. And Quinn and Max are two of the young people in the story, and they both come from really tough backgrounds, and they kind of found each other as friends. And I love writing them. I adore them as characters. As for whether or not there's romantic implication, there's no way I can know that just yet. I will say that Quinn is asexual, and I'm on that journey with him about exploring what that means. But what I will say is that they're best friends, and not only that, but I enjoy writing them so much. I'm almost 99% sure I'm going to be writing a spin-off series based upon them.
Nice.
There's the school they go to, the magical boarding school. That's what I call I've always wanted to write my magical boarding school novel. And eventually for years and years, I've made notes on this concept of doing a magical boarding school novel. And then suddenly I realized I have this magical world with kids in it and a school called Magnus Academy. It just so happens. So suddenly all those notes came together, and that series is being developed right now. And Max and Quinn are a huge part of it.
Awesome. I'll say it again. I love how you keep saying that you're on this journey with all your characters. You're really learning from them. I mean, you've created them, but in a way they're helping create you too. And that's really, really cool. So again, this question might be answered to my previous answer, aka read the book. So Quinn's vision gets stronger. So for all of our listeners, Quinn is a seer. Yes. And seers, they see everything, and the theory is that as time goes on, they're seeing all the possibilities in the universe, and they eventually go mad and crazy and everything because, well, they can't handle it. So Quinn's visions get stronger as the story carries on. We're not surprised to hear. Will Quinn learn to control his power eventually?
I think what I will say is that there was originally a really big storyline in book 3. My publisher did not want me to exceed the page count of book 2, though.
Oh, jeez.
But what I'm going to do is I took that entire storyline and I'm going to publish it as a free novella, or maybe I doubt it's going to be free because I'm going to have to pay for the cover art. But I'm going to do a novella. But that's actually the story of the whole secondary storyline was with Max and Quinn. So they have an entire 100-page story arc, which is some of the best material I think I've ever created. I really, really enjoyed writing it and brainstorming it. Heavily involved in that is the development of Quinn's abilities, because one of the problems from a writing perspective, readers might love this character, but from a writer's perspective, it's really troublesome to have a character who can know the future. How to balance that with the story and not making it seem too much like a convenience when I want it to be a convenience, and then unlikely. Okay. So I've really spent a lot of time thinking what I would do with him that would further him as a character, develop his abilities, but not also ruin my story arcs by having him tell the ending before it even happened.
So that's been a challenge.
It's been a challenge. The only thing I can say is I'm putting a lot of thought into it, because Quinn is one of my sort of underdog characters, and I'm very fond of him, so I'm going to make sure that he has a really good story arc.
Nice. Wow. Oh, the journey I am on right now. I mean, my wagging is intensifying, and I'm chasing it all around. And wow, it's difficult to contain myself. So, speaking of furries, so us furries gotta know, because we like this, will there be more were creatures in the coming books? I mean, you're not surprised. Furries and like werewolves. I mean, come on. We're all over that.
Yeah, no, that's an absolute. I've been teasing, I think at least twice now, I've mentioned that Lord Devil's in charge of the shapeshifters of the island, and there's a schism in his court, and it's between the cats and the wolves, I think. And I've said that it's threatening to spill out into the streets, and I have big things planned for that. That's something that I'm really looking forward to bringing into the novels. It won't happen probably until maybe towards the end of the second trilogy, but it's going to be a big development.
Nice. That's really exciting. Definitely. All of a sudden, every fur is wagging right now, let me tell you. So, I think actually I know the answer to this now, after everything you've said. But just to be clear, do you identify with any particular character or characters in your books?
All of them. They're all different shards of my personality. I literally, even doing the research on what animal would be my anthropomorphic representation, it's different characters in my head that try to speak. It's, the Quinn voice in me is wanted to be the Raven. The Bran voice in me, who's the bodyguard, wants to be the honey badger. So I have different. Rune probably wants to be a lion. He's a Leo and the head of the Sun Throne. But it's definitely they're all different elements of, when I feel aggressive, that's my brand. Brand is the guy who notices that the person in front of me has 13 items in the 12 item or less line. Rune is the person who, when someone's being treated unfairly, speaks up and gets in the middle of things, and that is me at times, at different parts of my personality. So, and also when you've planned these characters as long as I have, I mean, I'm not talking about years, I'm talking about tens of years.
Yeah.
Their voice is so distinct in my head. It's not even like writing dialogue. It's just putting my fingers on the keyboard and thinking, well, obviously, what would Brand say in this situation, for instance?
Very cool, very cool. And let me just say, you're going to make a really great furry, let me tell you right now. So you have that to look forward to. and hashtag furries ruin everything. So you also got that to look forward to. So speaking of, finally now, the third book. So, and I know it's not a secret because it's like all over your Twitter. But for our listeners that haven't seen your Twitter yet, what is the title of the third book?
The Hourglass Throne. So right there, I kind of signal what the story is about. I've occasionally mentioned that there used to be, it doesn't really exist in the tarot deck, but there used to be a court based on time, and it was destroyed centuries ago, and somehow that does tie into the third book, and I've been laying the groundwork for this for quite a while.
Okay.
So it's been... It took much longer than I thought to do. I feel really bad about that for my readers. I think you'll hear, if you talk with a lot of writers, they'll say it was difficult to write during the pandemic. It was a challenge, but it is now done, and it's in my editor's hands, and I really do hope it comes out this year.
Nice. How long... when you first started it, I mean, you've been starting it like forever, but like when you first started writing this specific book, how long did it take from beginning to now it's in editor's hands?
It's always a little bit different. I mean, if you consolidate the time, I usually probably write a book within 9 months that I'm shooting for 6. The problem is there are long stretches of time maybe where I have to put it down while I do some research, or something else is going on, such as a pandemic, or maybe
such as
idiot in the White House, or
or I don't know, maybe something, I don't know.
There were the last. I think you'll hear a lot of people say the last 4 years have been hard to focus. Social media can be really distracting with what's going on, but I had a really good story in the beginning. When I finally decided to write this series, it got received really well by my writing group. Finally, they said, you've got to just send this in. You've been sitting on it too long. Here's an agent I know, send it to her. And I sent it to Sarah Megavo, my agent. Within 3 days, she asked for the entire book. That was on a Friday afternoon, I remember. On Sunday, I got a call asking if I could talk with her at 8 a.m. on Monday, and she asked to represent me.
Nice.
Within 2 days, she was sending it out. And within about 2 weeks, I had a 2-book deal.
Wow.
With Pyre. So it really... Pyre, which is now owned by Start Media. It was. I had a really good story. I think most people aren't that lucky, but I had some good people behind me. My agent is amazing. My editor is fantastic. Like I said, I have great readers. So it's been a bit of a charmed experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a right place at the right time in a way, it seems. So did you... hey, hi. How's it going, Katie? How's your night?
Very nice.
Good. Yay. East Coast. Woohoo. Or something. I don't know. Anyway. But so do we get any... Well, you've kind of given us some, but do we get any hints as to book 3? Like, what do we have to look forward to?
Let's see. Is there anything I could tell you?
And the answer could be what I said.
I will say that there are some major characters who are not who they've appeared to be, and that will be revealed in book 3.
Oh, dun dun dun!
Some people really close readers who bond and they get together on Discord, they know exactly what I'm talking about. A reader who doesn't regularly follow. I had deleted an epilogue scene where I revealed the real identity of a character. Because it didn't fit at the end of book 2, and it's going to be a major arc in book 3. So this is the book 3 is my book of secrets. There are a ton of secrets revealed. There are secrets I've been keeping from the beginning of the series. I've made it clear that Rune is not always a reliable narrator. He's sometimes well, not sometimes, he's deliberately keeping things from the reader that things he just would not openly share with anyone. There's a secret in his past that he's been hiding. All of that comes out in book 3.
Wow.
I didn't want to, this isn't a secret I intended to linger over 9 books. Book 3 is where I really do tie up a lot of loose ends.
Nice. So is book 4? So book 4 meaning the start of trilogy 2. It's the same thing, but are there still going to be more secrets holding back, or is it a new?
Oh God, yeah. I planned.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay,
I planned a lot. The first 3 books are about the secrets that Rune is keeping from the reader. The next 3 books are about the secrets that have been kept from Rune, and then the final 3 books they're all endgame. All endgame.
Oh wow.
Wow,
Nice.
this is insane and exciting. This is so amazing. Whew, the journey you are taking me on.
I have to say though, keeping secrets, that's very furry, by the way.
I wish I did a better job at it.
Well, no, your furry is showing, Katie, I must say. So did you see, I don't know if you saw this, I don't know when it was posted, but on your Twitter, someone made a Hourglass Throne bingo card. Did you see that?
Oh, yes. I was just thinking about that. You're asking me about what I could talk about for the third one, and I was thinking about the bingo card because I feel very seen that they did a bingo card and nailed so many elements based upon what they've expected in other books and what I tend to provide. And then try to think of, well, am I going to surprise them for anything? The bingo card was one of those ones where I felt a little bit humbled. Not always in a good way. They're like, this is something that he always does, so I'm going to have to do something to shake that up in books 4, 5, and 6, I think. But it was flattering.
Yeah, good thing the bingo card came out now, not like at book 9. It's like, oh, geez, well, I don't have any chance to redeem myself now. It's done.
Yeah.
Awesome. So have you written, you've got other books in mind, in the works, some side stories and things. Have you written any other books in the past besides the tarot sequence?
Well, yes, they're sitting in a drawer. You'll never see them.
Oh, yeah, those, right.
Yeah. They're, I deliberately, when I decided I wanted to become a published writer, I took it seriously. I said, you've got to learn the craft first. And I did. I practiced on a couple of novels that I knew from the beginning they weren't going to be hitting out of the ballpark. These weren't going to wind up on a bestseller list or anything even remotely close. That just doesn't happen. It's a journey. You get better and you get better and you better. And even with the books I'm writing now, every one, I think I'm leveling up from the one before. But the early stuff, no. That was pre-level up.
No, it's done. It's way in the catacombs of the K.D. mystery file somewhere. Secrets not ever to be seen. Sorry for all you K.D. fans out there, but those are not secrets coming out even in book 9. So
now come on. Now, later on in the future, there'll be somebody will find them after you're famous and gone and long gone, and they'll go, ooh, the unpublished anthologies of K.D.Edwards.
I will say this, though, that it's actually, I think you guys would find interesting, which is that there is one novel that I wrote between books 1 and 2 of the Tarot series that I am intending to eventually try to get published. It's a story that means a lot to me, and it's a shape-shifting story. It is an arranged marriage between an urban fairy named Alex and Kalen, a young man who can shapeshift into a saber-toothed tiger.
Hey, there you go. You've got an audience
your
right
furry
now.
Is showing right there. Okay. Okay, we're hooked. Wow. So this is not just slightly changing gears, but it is changing gears. Just a note that, so my honey was looking at, I don't know, I think he was looking on Amazon to see if the third book was out or something, and there was something about this author, so he went to that, and there was something about interactive television, and we were both like, what? So what is this thing?
God, that dates me. That's before, like, the modern iPhone craze where everything is interactive now. The internet's interactive. It was when I lived in Colorado, this was a long time ago, I worked for a startup company called Zoom, which was trying to integrate closed caption technology that you could react to on a handheld device. So that while a show was on, it would facts would show up on this handheld device. And it never went anywhere, but it was an interesting experience. But interactive television, that is an outdated term. Everything is interactive now.
I know. And television is an outdated term even so.
Yeah, you're right.
So I remember I was like a young man working at Fred Meyer long ago, and interactive television, there was a couple of TVs that we had that capability on it. And it was funny because there would be like this little track underneath. And if you wanted to do something, you could use that to interact with the show. But it never, like you said, never went anywhere.
It was really, all of the prototypes worked great, but they couldn't mass produce it.
No.
It was a big thing, but it was a great and creative idea. But looking back then, I mean, it was considered cutting edge that you could have ASCII art, on a digital device.
Exactly. Yes. It's like, wow, you can put 2 things on there. Wow, yay.
For some reason, that's reminding me of the old, the old Ataris and stuff. There's 2600, 5200, and 7800. And for some reason, the 5200 went away so fast. The 2600, for whatever reason, stuck, and the 78 stuck, but not as well known. But the 5200 just went bye-bye. And I don't. That's not a very interesting story. Definitely, all you furs, KD's story are a lot more interesting than my story.
Much more interesting, yes.
About the 5200 that went bye-bye. So I just helped made your books so much better, KD, in my story right there. So besides writing, what do you do for fun and hobbies?
Oh man, nothing right now. No, because I work a full-time job, and then I will say the pandemic has been an eye-opening experience for me. I mean, it was really, a lot of people went through a really tough time, but for me, it showed me that I really like a stay-at-home job. So I'm hoping that the current job I have, I've been working from home since the pandemic began. I'm hoping to continue on in that status because for the first time ever, at least I have a shot at balancing my writing life and my personal life. If I want to take an hour at lunch to write, I can literally stop working.
Go in the
for
kitchen.
An hour. Yeah, and then and I don't spend any time driving anywhere, and the balance has been better than it's ever been. So for the first time, I actually feel like I have a little bit of breathing room. But I started publishing in my 40s. My first book came out when I was in my mid 40s. So I intend for my 50s is going to be hit the ground running. I am finishing this series in my 50s. I am coming up with a side series. So I expect 10 years of heavy writing ahead of me.
Wow.
Nice.
You've got a lot of writing ahead of you.
And so any of our listeners out there, of course, you can't see his face, but I'm looking at it, and he's really excited about this. So that's really cool to see. You can see it in his face.
I love it. I absolutely, it doesn't feel like work. I love doing this. I love my job, and I love writing. If writing ever becomes something big, sure, maybe that'll become my full-time experience. But right now, I share both, and okay. I couldn't be happier. And the readers make it worthwhile. I do a lot of free material. I've published free novellas and planning free novellas with Max and Quinn. I'm doing a free novella right now. I'm working on, and I do it because I love it, and I love the interaction with the readers, and they motivate me. And it's just, this is the time in my life for doing this, so it's going to get my focus.
Nice. Yeah. Now that's really, really exciting. Cool. So we've talked a lot about your book. So where is the tarot sequence available? Where can we find it? Where can we find out more about you and your projects?
The book should be pretty much everywhere. I mean, they should be in Barnes & Noble and all your bookstores and on Amazon. Goodreads will link you to independent booksellers as well as the larger online places. You can find out more about me. My website is K.D.Edwards.com, which I'm in the process of updating. Twitter is my social media of choice. That's where I really interact with people on a constant basis, and that is K.D.Edwards_NC for North Carolina. And also Goodreads. If you follow me on Goodreads, I usually keep people updated with what's going on or whenever I drop any free material.
Nice. And again, that's for any listener that missed it. The first 2 books in the tarot sequence are The Last Son and The Hanged Man by K.D.Edwards. So yes, please check that out. Really great stuff. And by the way, yes, on your website, one thing that got my, I talked that long, huge story that I didn't need to, but I did before about how my hubby and everything read your books and stuff. And so he looked at your website, and one of the first things he saw was you had a little blog about your first podcast. And so that's what made him think, oh, hey, I wonder if he would like being on a furry podcast. So anyway, that's kind of exciting.
Absolutely. I love meeting. It's just someone who asks you to talk to you about your story. It's so flattering and humbling, and it's always a great experience. I always learn something. I always meet really cool people. So thank you for asking me.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Great. And we thank you, and then you can thank us back, and we'll just do that in like an never-ending loop. It's kind of like when I chase my tail; it just kind of goes round and round for a very long time. So anyway, is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know? Oh, sorry. Barely just wrote a note. I'll go back for a second and say, so it's a free novella. Where?
Oh, well, I don't want to get into that. But, no, I mean, yes, I do want to tell you where it is, but I've actually been having a bit of a challenge with Goodreads. They deleted my pages for the free materials. It's been figuring out why they're doing that, why they're deleting pages. They're changing their policy, it turns out, to prevent the loss of, because there were quite a few reader reviews attached to these, and when you delete the pages, they're just gone. And
Oh, no.
I had no other, I don't want to sell them, you see. So sure, if I sold them through Amazon or something like that, yes, they could post an ISBN number and prove a legitimate source, but the whole point is I want it to be free. So usually Goodreads is where you would go to find out how to access them. I had them for free and download in a Google Drive folder. Now I'm posting them on my website, so as soon as that is set up, I have a really cool person helping me out with that. I'll put that back on Goodreads. Hopefully the pages won't get deleted, and you'll get to see all the free stuff, which I really, really enjoy doing. It's a chance to explore the funner side of the characters without doom and gloom and being chased by monsters.
Nice.
And that. Yep. So is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about you and or your work?
Just that I love meeting readers. Never hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or thoughts or just to say hello. It's always a joy. Absolute joy.
Nice. Great.
Oh, and thank your husband and thank Rain too.
Yes, we will. Rain is very excited because he's going to actually be editing this interview. So he's all fanboying. He's already texted me like 4 times. Are you done with the interview? Are you done with the interview? Are you done with the interview? So he's very excited to be get the audio of this.
Rain has been awesome.
Yeah. So we always ask our guests for parting shots or words of wisdom to the fandom. What would you say to folks that are like starting out in writing or starting out in the furry fandom? What advice would you give them?
I think the only thing I would say are 2 things. One, if you are interested in getting into writing, join a writing group. I will say that again and again and again. That is going to be your best way, not only to learn about how to improve your story, but by giving feedback to other people, you learn more about the process and the craft, and you also learn to get a thicker skin, and you learn to take feedback constructively in a way that you can absorb, and it makes your product better. The other thing I would say about learning about any other community, because that's the journey I've been on. All these I'm not transgendered. I didn't have any experience with transgender community. Now I do. I've got all these readers who are transgendered, and they've taught me so much. And here I'm on a podcast with people in the furry community. Never, ever, ever hesitate. But what I'm saying is, don't hesitate to reach out and learn more about communities you know nothing about. Across the board, I found that it's an experience filled with a lot of respect and decency and love and found family as well. So you're really missing out on your life when you don't experience new things. So that's my advice to people. It's you think your world is so big, but it can be so much bigger if you look outside the walls that don't really exist.
Nice. Very, very nice.
Awesome. Words well spoken.
Words. Those were words, and what kind of words were they? They were well-spoken words, it turns out. So I have to know. So it's very cool of you to say that. You've done lots of research and looking into the furry fandom since we asked you about this. So what's one of the striking things? I mean, you've kind of already said this, but what's kind of one of the striking things about the furry fandom, or what's something that really caught your eye? Was there some particular piece of fluff that made you excited?
That 2016 story about the conference that happened in Vancouver, and there were Syrian refugees who showed up at the same time, and the organizers were like, "Oh, this isn't going to be good. They're not going to get along. We should probably manage this." And what happens? These refugee kids from this, probably traumatic past, coming to this new country, not knowing what to expect, see this furry community. And the next thing you know, they're laughing and they're dancing, and the kids went to the final dance. And I read this. I'm still getting goosebumps even thinking about it. I mean, that was an amazing story. And if that doesn't show you something about the way the world should work, I don't know what does.
Yeah, nice. No, I remember that story. It's a very very touching story. We do that. And there was, this was a few years ago, California Con, further to confusion, there was someone, barely will remember the details better than I do, but someone was like robbing someone, and then some fursuiters from the con came out and like accosted the
I've got to
guy
read that.
I've
got to get that link.
So what it was it was the 2019 FurCon in San Jose, and the conference center is set up in a way that it's right along a busy thoroughfare, and there were fursuiters out standing along the road waving at cars as they go by, and this car was stopped at a light, and this guy was beating his girlfriend in the car. These furries opened the car, dragged him out, held him down until the police got there for beating up his girlfriend.
Oh, I gotta read that. That's you see again the way the world should work.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
Absolutely.
that we all have our Avengers around us.
They were
Yeah,
in
representatives
fursuit too, so yeah, I mean you've got
Yeah,
this
they
big
were in
bear or
fursuit.
something.
So it's like this poor guy got detained by a tiger and a dragon, I think was what it was. So it was one of the greatest stories in the world. But anyway.
Excellent.
Anyway, K.D., thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and we will hopefully have you on the show again sometime in the future when your third book comes out.
I'd love
Yeah,
it.
that'd
Thank
be
you
very
guys.
cool. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So, our very first non-furry guest. I was so excited to have him on the show.
But it sounds like he's on his way, though. He's fur
He's
and training
definitely
maybe,
on his
so
way,
That's
yes.
very exciting. No, yeah, very, very fun guy to talk to. Very cool. Really glad Tatsu read the books and alerted me to that. It's totally making me want to read them now.
Yes.
But yeah, like you, I've got all this. Well, like we talked
So many
a few
books.
weeks ago or something about all the books I have that I want to read, and you have that you so.
So
but
many
you're,
books.
You're pretty good at like reading some at the same time. Maybe I should try doing that.
As long as you can separate, like I said,
Yeah.
the different storylines in your brain, it's okay. As long as if they're not too similar, it's
Similar,
easy
yeah.
to do.
Yeah, I was just thinking if they're too similar, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I have decided that I cannot read two Ruckus books at the same time because they're too similar.
That's so true. True. I feel that a K.D.Edwards book and a Ruckus book would be fine at the same time.
Well, yeah, so now I'm reading two Ruckus books, the Rick Griffin book, and now I'm going to start reading the K.D.Edwards book. So I'm hoping they're not too similar to where I can separate them in between my brains. So
Well, I have a feeling that the furry books won't have Atlantis off the coast of Massachusetts, so I think you'll be fine there.
probably.
But yeah, K.D.Edwards, what a guy! Lots of fun to talk to. It was so cool to see how, as I said, excited he was to participate on the journey. His characters are helping him as he is helping his characters, and he's just having an amazing time with this journey.
He is.
Shout out K.D.Edwards. Can't wait to have you on the show again. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next time.
All right.
When you listen to this.
When you listen to this, you'll hear us again. Yeah. And now the time has come for that famous section, Furries in the News. And I think you're going to try and say it in Spanish, if I remember correctly.
Yes, because who was it? It was Ziggy said in the chat. Furries in Spanish is furros. And so furries in the news is furros en las noticias. And I probably mispronounced that, but that's the idea. So I thought, well, why don't I do that thing I do and attempt to do it in Spanish? So here we go. And again, as always,
Here we go.
I haven't precognitized this or anything, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Rosa Mexicano. Lots of nachos. Noticias. Hola.
Somewhere in there we had some nachos. So
Somewhere there we had some
because I was
nachos.
hungry. Yeah.
Ziggy, if you listen to us, let us know about our nachos, and we'll be thankful for it.
So I have two things for Furries in the News. One is that the 2021 Good Furry Awards is open for voting until the end of May.
And what is the Good Furry Awards there, Barely?
The Good Furry Awards are for good furries. Furries that have promoted the furry fandom and promoted furriness to the world. And our good friend and repeat guest, Cassidy Civet, has been nominated. And if you go there, you can vote for her. To vote, and you can only vote for one good furry when you log in. And that's it. So make your vote count. You can go to www.askpapabear.com/2021 voting. So again, that's askpapabear.com, askpapabear.com/2021-voting, and you can get to it. Yep. And I already logged in and voted for Cassidy. So Cassidy, you got my vote.
Woo!
Woohoo!
It'd be interesting just to see all the other furs that were nominated.
Yeah. We were not.
But were you?
Again,
I shouldn't be. So
you
yeah,
weren't
no.
I wasn't nominated. You weren't nominated.
Oh.
No, nobody. Yeah. So again, we missed the boat on that one. We were flailing around in the water.
Flowing around.
Anyway, and then the next item that I have, upcoming events. There's nothing in the immediate future or future. Remember, you can always check for coming up events in furrycons.com. And if you go to furrycons.com, they list hundreds of events all around the world and that you can attend and all that kind of stuff. So there you go.
Although I noticed Spokanthro. I mean, I know Spokanthro was canceled and everything, but I noticed if things were canceled or postponed, it does say that, but Spokanthro wasn't listed as either. So that was funny. I don't know if you have to register or something. I don't know.
Was it there?
It wasn't even there, at least for this year. No.
Yeah, I imagine you probably have to kind of reach out to them and say, "Hey, here's an event," and they'll probably put it in there.
Yep,
so,
right.
I mean, and you can only search out furry events because I think it's run by one guy. What do you have for the news? Any news items that you might have?
I don't have any furries in the news. No, I think that covers it.
Let's move along to the Tabin math. I think
I did watch. We did. Yeah, no, go say that.
I was going to say, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between series and sequences, I think, right now.
We are.
Because you corrected me last week when I talked about today's guest, KD, and I said he wrote the tarot series, and you said, no, it's sequence. And I said, well, isn't that the same thing? And you went, don't you get me started on the difference between a series and a sequence.
I did do that. I got all riled up. My fluff got riled.
Your hackles stood up on end. So
I have hackles.
So tell us about the difference there, Tabin.
I like how you said that.
Tabin.
So yeah, it's actually very coincidental that it happens to come up this week when we had Katie on the show this week. So as far as the English words are concerned, a series is a set of books or magazines or propaganda or something that it's a set of things that all have a common trait. Whereas a sequence is you've got a bunch of things in a particular order. So as far as the English words go, that's the difference. And so Katie's books of course are the tarot sequence. So that means that in the books there's a particular order to things. Now, as far as math goes, and I've talked about this a little bit, for example, on the episode where I talked about Fibonacci sequence, and I think there was another episode. So mathy terms, a sequence is just a list of numbers. 1, 2, 5, 10. It doesn't have to have a particular pattern even. Just all over the place. Just numbers. So a list of numbers. Now, a series is when you add up the numbers in a sequence. So, for example, if I take the numbers 1, if I were to just write out and list the numbers 1, 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, 1/32, so I'm just taking a half each time. That's a sequence of numbers.
Okay.
Now, a series is when I add all those up. As you know, barely, because you're smart, and we've talked about this before, is it possible that you can add up infinitely many numbers and you get a finite number out of it?
Yes.
Yes! You remember. I taught you things good. I won't ask you for, see if you remember the examples.
No, I don't.
Back on some episodes somewhere, I had some examples. Now, another example that I don't think I said on those episodes are that 1, 1, 1/2 thing. If you add all those numbers up, you actually get the number 2. So 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8. And it's not hard to prove and see with things called geometric series for any further that's interesting. So, and I talked about, as far as sequences go, I've talked about the Fibonacci sequence. Start with the numbers 1, 1, and you add those numbers and you get the number 2, then add the previous two numbers. 1 plus 2 is 3, so you get 1, 1, 2, 3. Add those previous two numbers, 2 and 3 is 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, so on and so forth. And that sequence, if you add all those up, actually you get infinity. Okay, fine. And if you go back to the episode where I talked about Fibonacci sequence, I talked about you can look at successive ratios. So I won't get into it now because you can just go back and listen to that episode. But I talked about the sequence of successive ratios, and that sequence has a limit. It converges to the golden mean, and the golden mean shows up in nature and all that stuff. So I talked about all that, so you can look at that before. So, I mean, there's the mathy and the English language differences.
There you go. Awesome. All right. It is time for us to share some really bad jokes. Do you have your Foxy Riddles and Bad Jokes, or Funny Jokes and Foxy Riddles book?
I do.
Okay. That book has really become a good part of us, a good part of this show.
Good part of us.
A good part of us.
I don't know why I find that so funny, but I do.
This book is a good part of a balanced breakfast, especially if you listen.
Lots
to us
of
in the morning.
nutrients. It's very vitamin-filled paper.
Eat the book and you'll be better. All right, so tell us what's happening with your book, Tabin. Please tell us what's happening with your book.
It's sitting here and it's trying to find its treat, but I keep taking the treat away from it, so it keeps having to walk further. What am I talking about? Ask me. What am I talking about?
What are you talking about, Tabin?
I have no idea. But thanks for asking.
You're welcome. Do you have further confusion? Oh no, that's a con.
That's a con. Sorry. You can't even make that joke because that's already con.
The last time we opened that book, there was a whole page of Batman jokes.
That's right.
Are there non-Batman jokes this week?
Looks like there are non-Batman jokes this week.
Okay. Hooray. No Batman jokes for us.
And so for any further, this book is from 1968, and it's filled with things that are stupid. So there you go.
Which fits right into our podcast.
But that's why I read them, I guess.
So I wanted to tell you that as part of jokes and stuff, I sent in, there was a pun contest.
There was?
There was. And I sent in 10 puns with the hope that at least one of them would win. But no pun intended.
Except for that one. So the first salesman.
Did you say the fur salesman?
The first salesman.
First salesman. Okay,
but
gotcha.
No, good catch. And he's saying, my job is selling salt. And the second salesman says, why, that's my job too. And the first salesman says, shake.
Because now they're salt shakers.
Oh, is that what that means?
Oh, I love it when these old
cow.
jokes are just like going over your little fluffy head.
They totally are. Oh my cow.
Yeah. So, do you know what the difference between a dog and a marine biologist is?
Let me think. A dog and a marine biologist. Now this eludes me. Please, barely. What is the difference between a dog and a marine biologist?
Well, one wags a tail and the other tags a whale.
That is true. That is so... I got that, though. Oh, yeah, and also, I haven't read these in advance, so we're all hearing them for the first time, whereas Barely actually is smart and conscious and picks his jokes out. That's why they're actually good.
Well, good is relative.
Yeah, that's why my grandma likes them, because it's all relative.
She's a relative.
Yeah, I don't... Oh, I should say that was from my book, but it's not. So the next thing that I haven't read is a cowboy is riding his horse. And no, he doesn't fly over the fence.
Okay.
A cowboy is riding his horse. And you remember? Flashback.
Yeah, way back.
Way back. Okay. So a cowboy is riding his horse, and he saw a little dog running down the road. Hi, said the dog. Hi, said the cowboy. A few moments, already like I'm thinking, what? But of course.
There you go.
A few moments later, the cowboy said out loud, that's funny. I didn't know that dogs could talk.
Okay.
This is adorable. The horse turned his head, looked at the cowboy, and said, you learn something new every day. So that's good. I approve. This pup approves.
Speaking of horses, so apparently that same horse, it walks into a bar and approaches the manager and says, excuse me, good sir, are you hiring? And the manager looks at the horse up and down and says, sorry, pal, why don't you try the circus? And the horse snickers and says, why would the circus need a bartender?
That's good. That's I like that. I like that, actually. See what I mean? Every fur out there, he has good things to say, this Mr. Barely right there.
Well, I tie things together. It's my job.
It's your job. Well, speaking of jobs, the prize fighter's son says... Yes.
What does he say? Tell me what he
said,
says, please. Oh.
My pop is stronger than yours. And the traffic cop's son says... Oh, yeah? Well, my pop can hold back a line of cars with just one hand. Because that's what they do.
Yeah, traffic.
So that was really bad.
So do you know what you get? I'm just going to move it along to the next one.
Please.
What do you get when you cross a Cocker Spaniel, a Poodle, and a Rooster?
Wow. This is actually interesting. This is an interesting scientific fact. A Cocker Spaniel, a poodle, and a rooster.
Yes.
I don't know what becomes of this, Barely.
Well, you get a Cocker Poodle do.
You do.
Of course.
you just
there you
do.
go. Last one. Last joke. You got to finish on a good one. Give us a good one, Taven.
So two more.
Oh, two more. Okay.
Two more. Jim says teacher. Not the gym teacher.
Not the gym teacher.
I'll use different names because that's confusing. Bob says, teacher, why would you spank me for something I... What? Why am I reading this? What?
I don't know, but let me hear the joke.
I guess we're stuck now.
We're stuck. You started it. You can't finish it now. Or you
Again,
have to finish
listeners,
it now.
I haven't read this before, so...
Okay, yes.
Bob says to the teacher, teacher, would you spank me for...
Oh, this is awesome. We're going to end on this joke. This is the last joke. I have to tell you right now.
Okay. I don't even know what the punchline is, so let's try and get to the punchline. Bob says to the teacher, teacher, would you spank me for something I didn't do? The teacher says, why no, Bob. Why? And Bob says, well, I didn't do my math.
Oh, it was a different time in the 60s. Apparently, teachers could spank their students.
And there's actually so many levels to what just happened.
Oh, so many levels. Yeah, no, there was...
oh, my cow.
I think there's websites for that. But anyway...
I think there's, psychiatric wards for things like that, actually.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Taben, you know what? The time has come to push the stop button on this podcast.
That is a good thing.
Yeah, I think we've had a great time, but I imagine a lot of our listeners spend a lot of time shaking their heads at our jokes and our puns.
I know I do. Oh my cow, I know I do
too. But you know what? They still tune in, and we love them for it.
Yay, love you, hug.
Hug. And I hope all our listening organisms out there will join us next week when our guest will be Cocodope.
Artist, wonderful, cute style Cocodope, yeah? So tune in for that.
Tune in for that. And so until next week, I say unto you, stay furry, Moobarkfluff.
Moobarkfluff. Yes, every fur and fluff out there. And if there's any non-furs out there listening, you are so amazing. But yes, any fur out there, we love you. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you tune in again next week. And we wag. That's all. We wag. Can't wait to hug you again with pausies in the future. So until then, have a wonderful week. We'll bark at you next time. Moobarkfluff, we wag.
Barely Furcasting is an Injured Nerves studio production and is found on all major podcast platforms or can be heard directly at barelyfurcasting.com. The opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and their guest, and no commercial compensation was granted. The Furcast is produced, recorded, and directed by me, Barely Normal, aka Mike Began, and is edited by myself and our associate editors, Rain Raccoon and Bixby Wolf. This week's interview was edited by Rain Raccoon. Opening and closing theme music, as well as some interstitial music, was created for Injured Nerves Productions for the use on the podcast by our music associate, Reg Day, with Damian Tanuki. If you would like to hear more music by Reg Day, you can search for Tweezerbeak on Bandcamp or Hoop Loop Tunes on SoundCloud. Other interstitial and background music by Shane Ivers through SilvermanSound.com, Gator Tots on SoundCloud.com, and the YouTube Free Use Library. You can send us a message via email at barelyfurcasting@gmail.com or on our Telegram chat at BFFTchat, on Twitter, on our Facebook page, or on the barelyfurcasting.com webpage. The show is supported through donations at ko-fi.com/barelyfurcasting or through Patreon at patreon.com/barelyfurcasting. Thanks for listening. We hope you come back and listen next week.